Israeli military said it attacked Hezbollah forces planning to launch missiles and rockets toward Israel. The two sides have been exchanging fire across the border since Hamas attacked southern Israel on October the 7th. Well, the fighting has forced thousands of people from their homes in Lebanon. Zaina Hodder reports from a school sheltering displaced people in the southern city of Tyre.
People are complaining. We are talking about thousands of people who are now displaced. As you can see behind me, they spend the day at the school's courtyard. These people live in villages close to the border, which really is now a war zone. Approximately 100 kilometers of the Israeli-Lebanon border is now a military area, and fighting and shelling really confined to a depth of at least 2 kilometers. So people in that region have made their way deeper inside Lebanese territory. Local officials that we've been speaking to here have been telling us they're struggling. They just don't have the budget to deal with this crisis. And it's still not a crisis because there hasn't been a mass exodus and the fighting is still relatively confined in geographical terms. Beds, blankets, because winter is approaching. They don't have that. We have to remember, Lebanon state, the government is nearly bankrupt. There is a deep financial and economic crisis in this country, now in its 4th year. People too are struggling to make ends meet. The unemployment is high. So these are the people who have nowhere else to go. Other people have relatives in other cities across the country. They're staying at their homes. Others who do have money are renting homes. But more and more people are making their way from the south as they fear this conflict could widen.
Well, let's bring in Qarmout. He's a professor of public policy at the Doha Institute for Graduate Studies. Thanks again for joining us here in the studio. Just in regards to Hezbollah there that Zaina was talking about, how do you see things playing out there in southern Lebanon? If things escalate further within Gaza, will it be inevitable that Hezbollah and Israel, I guess, expand the conflict than what we've seen over the last few days?
Tom, this is an excellent question, and the answer is yes, there is a high possibility. This could escalate into a full-scale war involving Hezbollah. What Hezbollah is doing now is more or less it's a calculated response. So they have set some lines, red lines for Israel, which includes the invasion of Gaza, the land invasion of Gaza. So if Israeli forces go inside Gaza, then Hezbollah will escalate.
Mm-hmm.
Now, to be honest, it's again, the entire question of a full war also is whether Hezbollah will be fully engaged in this war. It remains a difficult one to answer because Hezbollah also is in a very difficult position. I mean, internally inside Lebanon, Lebanon is a very fragile country. It has many difficult socio-economic situations. Many people inside Lebanon also blame Hezbollah for the misery Lebanon also is facing now. Sanctions in Lebanon because of Hezbollah's involvement with Syria as well. So it's also Hezbollah is between two fires. The internal pressure from many segments of the Lebanese society not to be involved in a war with Israel, fearing the vast destruction, and at the same time it's more or less its reputation and its legitimacy as a resistance party in Lebanon, which has been always at the forefront of resisting Israel, liberating southern Lebanon. So Hezbollah is not an easy position. Yeah. But the important factor here is to watch Iran. What is the Iranian decision? I mean, will the Iranis support a full war with Israel, or they have their own different calculations? So it's a snowball. It's a rolling snowball. We don't know how will it. Where will it stop and how will it end, more or less? So,
yeah, I guess it is one of those things where we wait and see. We're also just getting more information in that Hamas's armed wing, the Al-Qassam Brigade, say they've launched two suicide drone attacks, one of which targeted a squadron of the Israeli Air Force located at one of their bases. A second drone has targeted the headquarters of the Sinai division of the Israeli army located at the Israeli Teslim military base. How big a deal is that? Two suicide drone attacks launched in the last half an hour or so, from what we understand.
I'm not familiar with the term suicide drone attacks. I know drones are all drones. So like in Russia, they're used in Ukraine, same like used in Gaza. But in any way, I mean, this is more or less an indication that Hamas has capabilities, fighting capabilities, and it's sending a message that it's ready. It's still
military. It's still
capable of responding, correct, and tactically, not even so. Basically, now what's happening is that you would think, or the Israeli society or the Israeli government would think that the war is fully concentrated on Gaza and inside Gaza.
Yes.
And then you suddenly hit Hamas hits and say, no, it's not over. We still have the rockets, and then we have tactical weapons that we can use to hit Israeli military targets inside Israel. But again, these are, I mean, when it comes to scale, it's nothing to compare. Hamas, whatever Hamas has, I mean, these are primitive weapons in the weapons industry and technology in comparison to what Israel has. Israel has devastating capabilities to wipe out Gaza. And Hamas is, again, it's a party. It's a guerrilla warfare tactics. So it's, we need to be aware of the comparisons and the scale also.
Make sure to subscribe to a channel to the latest news from RDZ World News.